Welcome to Ground Up Growth, where we share entrepreneurial insights, business strategies, and personal growth lessons to help listeners build success from the ground up.
All right, welcome back to Ground Up Growth. This is episode 21. I have Drew Hegi, John Hegi, and Wade Phillips here. These three guys, they are the owners of Vital Care Infusion Services, which is a specialty pharmacy that was started in 2013 right here in Mississippi. And now they have 3 additional locations in 3 different states. In addition to that, they also own Brick City Drugs, which is a retail pharmacy right here in Madison that was started in 2019. John, Drew, and Wade, thank y'all for coming on. I'm excited about this.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for having us.
Real quick, because, time is the biggest part. So, trying to unpack all of y'all stories may be tough. So, just maybe elevator pitch. We'll run down the line. Tell us where you're from, how old you are, how many kids you got, and anything else you got. So,
all right. I'm Drew Hegi. Live here in Madison, born and raised. Of course, John's my brother. Wade and I are best friends from college, Mississippi State, but married to Morgan. We got 3 kids. And we can talk a little bit about work history and career and path and all that, but that's the short and simple of where we're at in life right now.
how old are you?
Same age as you. 38.
So, in your 30s?
Yeah, we're getting there.
There you go. All right, Wade.
Wade Phillips, grew up in small town, West Tennessee. Very similar to, it's really essentially kind of the Mississippi River Delta on the north end of West Tennessee. So grew up there, small town, just traditional values, rural activity of, kind of where I grew up, nothing big, no big cities or anything like that. So lived there all the way through, and then moved down to Mississippi for school. Went to Mississippi State, met Drew, and went and did that 4 years. Then went back to pharmacy school at University of Tennessee. Spent 4 years there, and then after pharmacy school, I moved back down here, where we started the businesses about a year later. 39. Married, Laura Beth is my wife, have 3 kids, a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yep. And I'm John Hegi. I guess I'm the only 40-year-old at the table. Older and wiser. We'll use that for this one. So, I grew up in Madison as well. Married Meredith is my wife for 20 years now. And we have 4 kids, 8th grade girl, 7th grade boy, 5th grade boy, and kindergartner. And I went to Ole Miss, so I'm deviated from these guys on that. I followed
3
Meredith.
Bulldogs and a Rebel.
That's right. I followed Meredith to Ole Miss. We dated in high school, and she went to Ole Miss for pharmacy school. And so I majored in accounting and ran that career for a while.
Nice. So 10 kids between the 3 of y'all?
Is that right? 10?
3 and 4?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of them. I think when we started this, there was 1, maybe 2.
Yeah. My second was born right the year that we started the pharmacy. Wow. So, yeah.
All right. What would you graduate in, Drew?
Mississippi State, kind of similar to yours, real estate and mortgage finance.
Okay.
Came out in 08, 09.
Oh, perfect time.
Great time for finding a
I
job.
always joke around about that, at the hump, the career fair. There was nobody there.
There was nobody there.
Go talk to potential employers. It's there ain't nobody here.
Yeah, and even the ones that were there, you're like, man, I'd love to get it. And they're like, we're not hiring.
Right. Yeah, they're there to tell you they're not hiring.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. So how did y'all all right, 2013, so 12 years now, Vital Care Infusion Services has been in play. How did that get kicked off? Or what started?
Yeah, so Drew and I's parents, our parents, they had side businesses growing up, and it was always something that I kind of admired and wanted to do too. And so my accounting finance background, Wade's a pharmacist, my wife Meredith's a pharmacist. Drew had just started working for a bank as a pharmacy loan officer in 2012. And so I'm like, look, we have the perfect kind of team to do something in the pharmacy space. So as you're doing these loans, as you're, hearing about different stuff, Let us know if you think there's something out there that we should do from a pharmacy perspective. Because I was like, I feel like we can make it work. And then, so you're there, and then you kind of get introduced.
Yeah,
to
so
some-
I had a couple jobs before. I had like a business sales job. Then I was a pharmaceutical rep, and then I landed at First Financial Bank, which great small bank out of Arkansas, but had me in a healthcare lending niche that just kind of really found its footing in pharmacy, which is kind of weird.
So what were y'all lending on? Building those
Like
buildings?
your mom and pop drugstore, and that's all Goodwill type stuff. So like you could have a $1.5 million business that leases its office space and doesn't have got some drugs that you can't do anything with, no collateral. Mm-hmm. And so that is where there was a need on the lending side to where your local bank's not going to touch that because they can't go get anything if
right.
if
No
the business,
hard
yeah,
asset.
there's no hard asset. So it was all just blue sky Goodwill, but that's where we found there was a need. And so we really dug in on the pharmacy side from a lending standpoint. And I would go to, the way I would get customers is go to pharmacy trade shows. Like I'd go to 8 to 10 pharmacy shows a year all over the country.
Wow.
So we were loaning money, coast to coast. Mainly you're just mom and pop drugstores that were changing hands. And then, I started in April of 2012, went to the Arkansas Pharmacy Association event in Rogers, Arkansas, and met this group out of Meridian, Mississippi called Vital Care. And they were franchise type deal. Met the sales guy on the franchise side for Vital Care Corporate. And he was like, we need somebody to be a lender on these Vital Care franchise locations that we're selling because nobody will do startup loans.
Right.
It's hard for these people to find access to capital. So we started doing a bunch of Vital Care loans all over the country at the bank. And that was sort of when, John had a lot of influence over, let's try to find something. Let's see what could be built on the side of our jobs. And the Vital Care thing was attractive because it was niche. It was 8 to 5. It was kind of closed door. Wade kind of started in a retail setting, and Meredith was in a retail setting too. Those are long hours. You're
Right.
working until 10 o'clock at night. You're dealing with, the public. You work for large corporations. But the Vital Care thing, you can own it. It's closed door. Everything's delivery with your, you get patient referral. We can talk about more about what the business is. But, it wasn't long. Started at the bank in April of 12. And we signed a franchise agreement in February of 2013 for the Central Mississippi. There really wasn't a Vital Care franchise, even though they're based out of Meridian. There's one on the coast. I guess there's one in Vicksburg. There's Hattiesburg, but there wasn't one in Jackson. And we're like, well, that may be perfect.
Yeah.
That's where the major hospitals are,
Right.
which is where you get a lot of your referrals from. So we bought that in February of 13 and just kind of went through the playbook of getting it open.
And Wade had experience in infusion pharmacy. He did a rotation with a big player in Memphis, and so he kind of got to see what it was like and was familiar with it.
Yeah. No, it was.
So what is Vital Care infusion? What is
Time out. What is this talking about?
So Vital Care, what it is, and where it started in 2013 is very different than you look at the landscape of what it is today, present day, 2025. So when we were starting, it was mainly based on acute care services. So when I say acute care services, essentially what I'm meaning is, or a typical patient, the way that they would come to us would be, a patient goes into the hospital and they have a knee replacement, something like that. Then they, a few weeks later, they get a post-op infection. So you've got to be able to service this patient in a setting that's not a hospital where you're going to treat them for an acute diagnosis that they have, such as a post-op infection or something like that. And you treat them traditionally with something like a 6-week antibiotic course in an IV route. So, it's very expensive for a patient to go and to sit inside of a hospital for 6 weeks. Insurances don't like it. It's not very conducive to the patient. And so you have to find an alternative care site for that patient to be serviced. So essentially they get discharged out of the hospital. We accept them on our service. And then we run that service for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, depending on what their diagnosis is. So we treat them with an IV based drug formulation that is able to get them out of the hospital. They're healthy individuals,
right?
They can go to work. They can, live a normal lifestyle of what they would normally be doing. They just have, an acute infection or something like that.
Doctor just wants them on IV medication for 6 more weeks. They're well enough to go home, so
it's probably a better situation. I mean, I know zero about the healthcare industry, but I would think being in a confined, I'm assuming there's a location they go to with y'all, being almost contained there versus walking up in the hospital and being exposed to.
Both they do it at the home too. I mean, you do it at your house.
Yeah. So early on, we would have come.
Oh, so they do not come.
We would consider ourselves a home infusion pharmacy. So we're taking everything to the house.
When you get discharged, the case manager, discharge planner is setting up the home infusion pharmacy, and they're setting up a home health nurse. More times than not.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of where nursing and pharmacy come together.
Yeah, it's funny that you say they're in a better situation to where they're doing it. Man, we made some deliveries to some terrible places. Heating their trailer with their stove. It's some rough stuff.
But that would be the typical early on vital care. Still to this day have that type.
Yeah. These patients still exist. That sort of scenario is still out there.
So you've got, I know the word's not technicians, but whoever's going to the house to give out the IVs and stuff. How many of those people do y'all have? Like, how big is vital care?
So in-house, internally, inside of our pharmacy, we in our Madison location here in Mississippi, we have 7-8 pharmacists. There's 3-4 technicians, full-time delivery.
But that's
drivers.
totally separate from Brick City Drugs.
Totally
that's right.
separate.
Yeah, we haven't got to Brick City Drugs in the story yet.
Yeah.
And you got to camp out at Vital Care a little bit in the early days to sort of appreciate. So, we tried to do it. I worked for a bank, and we should have had access to capital, but we didn't go to my bank or any other bank like my bank to get a loan. We just pulled all the cash we had saved up, which wasn't a ton because we weren't that far out of college.
Right. Yeah.
Home equity lines of credit, loans.
Pledging investments accounts as collateral.
Loans off our investment. We just pulled together all the funds that we could get.
That's a big part of the story.
It's a big part of the story.
We never wanted
to overextend ourselves.
Right.
Go get the big startup loan that is, a hope and a prayer.
You're a CPA?
That's right.
You had to have heartburn about taking a home equity line of credit.
But
I sell y'all houses all the time. I know how y'all are.
Yeah. But we went by not leveraging ourselves so much, it was the safer play.
It's a safer play. You could get out of it. Like you had a hard asset to sell if you ever needed to pay your debts off.
If you were to go get a loan from like your previous employment, like let's just say prime is 7%, I think it's 7% right now. What would that typically be interest rate wise on if y'all three went to start Vital Care Services, give me a loan, go to the bank, what's the rate going to be?
The more traditional path was what we were doing for all their other locations was like a $500,000 loan. 7-8% interest rate, 10-year payback. It's an SBA deal.
Yeah. Gotcha.
We're doing SBA stuff. But
Drew saw enough of it to realize we didn't want to go the route.
It's just like I was a little bit just risk averse on how we approach this thing from a finance and capital standpoint.
Absolutely.
But same thing with salaries and same thing with keeping our jobs. that was all very important.
Yeah. So when we started, because we were closed door, we didn't have to have the corner lot. And so we were on the back side of a building off of Nissan Parkway in a little over 1,300 square foot space. We were paying $12. It was $12 a square foot for this. For the space,
and that made us nervous.
That's right. We didn't know how we were gonna. But
mortgage.
It was just a little shotgun, little spot, and we only had 2 full-time employees. We had a technician and a sales rep, and we hired them in 2013. And so my wife Meredith, she was like the on-call pharmacist. Wade had his. You were at what Carthage discount? At
I was. I was
at that point.
Yeah, I was moonlighting at Vital Care at night. So I drive to Carthage, work a full day, and occasionally I get a phone call. I'd step out to the break room, or you talk to a referral source, or you talk to Meredith or something like that. and they sort of knew what I was doing to some degree. We'd started this business, but yeah,
So y'all all three kept jobs in the infancy. That's
right.
I think that's a huge part.
Yeah,
That's
we all
that's
kept
right.
jobs. Yeah, Drew was working at the bank. John was.
I was at C-Spire at the time.
And then I was working at. I graduated in 2012 from pharmacy school, so in that into that summer I started in Carthage. So yeah, driving to Carthage. Everybody was still working. Again, just a couple of kids, not a ton of expenses out there.
Right.
I don't know if everybody's wives were working. Morgan,
Yeah,
maybe
Morgan
was working
worked
still.
at Horn and
Yeah, so we had income.
It was a grind in the
coming
beginning.
it was a guy in the beginning, and
Yeah,
we wanted to make sure we tried to build it. We wanted to test the concept first,
Right.
more or less. I mean, with Wade hadn't quit his job yet, but at the same time, and this makes a lot of sense. We can make it work. He can not drive to Carthage. I mean, that was a motivating factor. And
Right.
so yeah, like literally, all three of us had our jobs, and
We probably we ran that race a little bit for maybe a year and a half. I think
it was probably all the way up until 2015.
June of 2014 is when I went full time at Vital Care, and by full time I meant no pay time.
Yeah.
There was no.
So we were
pay.
busy enough to where we needed, all right, we need Wade there. Like him coming in at 5:30, 6:30 after his Carthage job wasn't enough. I mean, he'd be out there till midnight. Like,
Yeah, it was one of these deals where I would, Meredith would maybe.
That's when you
do-
know to grow to take the next step. Though is like I can't. Like there's not.
There's not.
I think that
24 hours
is.
is not enough time.
I did the same thing, like moonlighting into real estate when I was doing the water damage and mold remediation. But I held on to the mold remediation stuff until I physically could not do both of them. Then I was like, all right, I'm confident in taking the step into real estate full time. I think that's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
Y'all all did that. That was, especially when you're not taking a loan out and you're doing those things, like that's that's the grind nobody
we would
sees.
get there.
Yeah.
Meredith and I, we would, John would say, all right, y'all just log your time. Maybe
They kept up with it.
Maybe y'all we'll pay it back one day.
Yeah.
We're just like, I go in and go, all right, I'm going to log this time. This is really, this check will cash probably, right, at some point in time.
Yeah, he worked a year without getting paid.
Yeah,
We logged it, but he did not get paid for a year. And then after a year, he went for 6 months at half salary, which was a big deal when we finally got to pay
It's
him.
like end of 2015, I think.
Yeah, you started getting a full salary in the beginning of 2016, I think.
Thought I was rich.
Yeah.
Man,
I was rich.
But we
that's
did
a huge sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's risk.
that cannot be like mentioned. I mean, like that was a big part. We didn't have a lot. I mean, we put and we were growing, so it was good and bad. It was churning through a lot of cash.
But you needed to inject it right.
But we needed to
no
inject
pun
it.
intended with the
That's right.
infusions, but you needed to infuse the
That's right,
cash
yeah.
back into
Yeah,
the
we had
business.
to. I mean, yeah, the business was it needed it. You had to keep feeding it cash, and to take anything out would have just been
right.
sort of detrimental to the business.
Well, and
I
the
think we're
biggest-
going to end up having a second segment here that's going to strictly be on partnerships, because for y'all to be able to, I've been in partnerships, and for three people to still be together, I mean, they say partnerships are sinking ships, and then you add in the mix, this man didn't get paid for a year.
Yeah.
We're going to have to unpack a partnership.
yeah, and then the whole like family side of it. I
Yes.
mean, Wade was working a lot of hours.
Well, and the
Like,
toughest part of it is that our business is the end game is getting the medication to the person's home. And we're not paying, we don't have a delivery driver, and we're not using a courier service. So you would literally get done with your job and be like,
All
okay,
three of us, and our
And-
wives, and
our parents,
grandparents,
in-laws.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody
in-laws.
would make.
yeah, you're like, where do we have to go? Like, where am I going to have to
And
go?
it was Greenville,
Yeah,
Amory,
this is
Clarksdale.
It's,
I mean,
not
it's
15
not.
minutes away. I mean, there would be times you come home from Carthage, you get to the pharmacy, and you're like, well, I got to go to Cleveland tonight. And you'd load up in the car at 8:30, in the old, Nissan Altima, and say, "All right, we gotta drive."
Put your Vital Care polo on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. That's
Red Bulls.
Well, and then also because you're looking for any way to get an advantage over existing,
Yes.
companies that are out there. So Drew came up with the idea, because people go and you have these case managers that people working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and bringing them lunches because they're trying to build up goodwill with them. And Drew's like, well, people get discharged on the weekend too. what if we start taking like lunches to the weekend crew, and that, if they get discharged on the weekend, then they'll come and
That's a
and they'll
fun
use
Saturday
us.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Let's go up to Baptist Hospital and take the case
Yeah,
manager.
there was some afternoons. It was like, all right, me and Drew headed to Lenny's to get some subs to take to a couple of the ladies up there at Baptist Hospital. So
Loved it. Nobody ever brings
And no
that
one
up.
else was doing it. That
And
was
tell
not
them
a sales pitch.
tell them what the sales pitch was. We had to.
Yeah.
We're not like other companies. Our pharmacist makes the first delivery, which no one says that.
No one says it. It's not
Looking back, it's
sustainable.
kind of like, that's embarrassing.
It was. I mean, it made sense to us at the time because that's what was happening, but it was just nuts to say that.
Okay.
We're involved. We're invested in this guy.
Yeah. So
All
it was.
your highest professionals.
Not only is the pharmacist going to deliver them, the pharmacist doesn't get paid.
Yeah,
Because he's patient first,
Our first delivery we made, this was a lady that lived off of Medgar Evers over by Hawkins Field. We made it. I remember getting a call. It's like a Friday afternoon. They call us and say, "Hey, you've got your first referral," and we're probably making no money on it, but left Carthage, drove back to Vital Care. So what we do, if you went in our facility, you would see it. It's sterile compounding. So there's clean rooms, there's hoods, it's a whole setup you walk into, and you'd see someone that's in there and they're fully gowned, head to toe, gloves, shoe covers, everything. So it's sterile compounding at its core. So the first time we get this referral, I'm like, I don't even know how to make it. I remember calling someone, this is, can we YouTube this? How does this even work? So we get in there. It takes us way too long to make this thing. And, John's there, Meredith's there, Larbeth's there, I'm there, the four of us there. And so we're like, all right, we've made it. We got it packed. We're ready to go. And so the four of us, we head out to West Jackson. We're going to make this delivery to this lady. And we show up, can't find the house. It's dark. It's not in a great area of town. Sure enough, me and Meredith, we walk in there, two pharmacists, not only one, but we got two pharmacists going to make this delivery. We're going to get this lady set up. We're going to take care of her. Patient care at its finest. And we do this, and we're like, I mean, can we rinse and repeat this just over and over? It's like, well, this is all we knew, so let's give it a try. So it obviously changed over the years with being able to add more people. But yeah, there's some stories like that. Just it didn't make a ton of sense. But I mean, it was our business. It was our baby.
But you were all in, so it didn't really.
All in. I mean, there were some low moments of.
Very low moments. Yeah.
Larbeth feeling like she hadn't seen her husband and.
Oh yeah, Wade was an absolute we were all just kind of like the Aaron and her, where you hold the hands up of Moses to like keep him. That's what we're trying to do for Wade. We're just like, how do we keep him
because you just can't underestimate how many hours he spent working. He's not getting paid anything. The business isn't making any money. We're just passing the hat around to see who can fund it, to keep it going.
There was literally text message that went around that said, all right, whose time to write this?
Yeah.
Drew was probably making the most money and had the most, and didn't have any, no kids at this point. So he had the most,
I always had commission type jobs. And so just that, there's always just lump sums that you could sort of invest in the thing. So that was sort of our role. And Wade can be out there grinding and working for free. And
there was probably a lot of conversations that I was not involved with. Though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, talking about Wade
checking in on Larbeth.
Yeah, there was one day where Morgan, I think Wade had been working who knows how long, and just went by and like bought a sandwich somewhere and was just gonna drop it off for him just so he could eat. And she dropped the sandwich off, and then kind of find out we had like a couple deliveries that we had to go to the Delta to do. And I'm like, I don't know how much sleep he's had. I said, I'm just going to drive him. I'm not. He's going to put it in a ditch if we don't drive him there. So I told my wife, I was like, I'm going to just drive him there. And so I show up to the pharmacy. The sandwich is still there. He loads up all the stuff, and we get in the car and we drive. He eats a cold sandwich on the way up there. He's working through all the stuff he's got to figure out. I drop him off at his house to go do stuff, and we'll go and make the delivery to the other house, and we pick him up and we drive back. And so, but
we would do these things. We tried to just keep everybody involved, and it was very family oriented. Obviously, we've talked about just everybody involved and all hands on deck. But we would have these dinners. The three of us and our three wives, we would go out, place just to kind of catch up on, where the business was at. And, I can remember sitting at those dinners, we'd, be wherever. And, they would want to talk about, have all these questions about what's going on here. And I had no desire to talk about any of it.
Yeah.
I was just spent with the whole thing.
Yeah, you've been dealing with it.
So just
wanted to
sitting
relieve
there
that.
and just kind of exhausting yourself over it. And,
Yeah.
and everybody else is just kind of from the outside looking in.
Yeah, the
like,
family
yeah,
dynamic
just-
too is like you're saying. I mean, you're working for free, you're grinding, you're doing all these things, plus your home life. I mean,
Yeah.
like you got to be having. We've all gone through that. That's part of the process from the ground up growth deal. Is like you're gonna grind, and it's gonna be sacrifices, but that those parts nobody sees. Like people don't take their troubles to social media, so it's like
That's right.
But it happens. We all deal
definitely
with
happens.
it. I mean, we
Yeah, probably more so in their household, Wade and Laura Beth, than ours. I mean, I think they would go through a grind, and Laura Beth would be like, "We just need to be. You need to be done. We need to stop
Yeah.
this." And he's like, "You want to stop? You dial the number. You tell him we're done. You dial it."
We said, all right, we're done.
That is one of the great stories. Just dial the number. We'll tell them we're out. We'll tell them right now we're done.
Oh, man.
You got to make the call though.
It really.
Somehow
it'll-
we persevered
it'll
through it.
test
But
your marriage.
That was,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a turning point probably.
Yeah, it was around like 2015. So we started in 2013. In 2015, we had. I mean, what's crazy is we were like. So Vital Care has annual conferences. So they come and they give awards and do that sort of stuff and kind of give industry update and all
for
that
their
sort of stuff.
franchises network.
Yeah.
I mean,
And so we went and we got the like up and coming award winner, but we still were not happy with where we were. We didn't really know that much, and we didn't know what we didn't know. The sales rep we hired initially was not the right fit for us. And so I remember Wade got back. Some people were asking him because you win an award and people want to come like ask you like, how are you doing that?
Right,
And
they wanna get the
that's right. They want to
keys.
figure out
Yeah.
what's going on. And they came up and they was like, "Hey, how are you doing? And how y'all doing this?" And Wade's like, "We're about to fire our sales rep." And they're like, "Are you serious?" And we're like, "Yeah." So we transitioned away from our original sales rep and hired another one, and that's when everything changed for us. And so we just hired a rock star employee who was an RN, which we had never really thought. We usually were thinking about like traditional like sales rep type people. But getting someone who could speak the language of the nurses and the case managers and understood what to do, could do patient teaching a lot better, and it just changed everything for us in 2015.
Was that an idea to hire an RN, or that was just happenstance?
it was given. Her name was given to us by.
we had a contact in the industry that was working in the pharma world. She was
like
a drug rep.
wound care, which is kind of a lot of what we did. And it just the more you got into it, the more you realize, all right, this is pretty clinical. This is not super, super salesy. Case managers don't really want a sales rep coming in.
Right.
That's not. You want somebody that can help you get their hands dirty, get the patient taken care of, that kind of thing. So that's been our model. And
it's a model. I don't think that
hire a bunch of
there's a
RNs
lot of
to-
other Vital Care locations that kind of live in that world where they're real salesy. They want to hire the up and coming pharma rep or something to bring into their specialty pharmacy, and we just haven't had that model. We like the idea of if you want to know who can really work, you go find you a floor nurse on a hospital, and those are workers.
Really?
Those a lot of them women, but those girls can work. And so we found one. It was a great relationship, and even to this day, she's highly regarded in our company.
So 2015, you started taking some flight. Maybe you start seeing some salary or something. How do you go from there to 3 different states and 3 different locations?
I think one of the motivating factors for the Vital Care business, the way it was back then, was, you're getting patients, and we were consistently, weekly, getting referrals, but those patients got better. If you had an infection, you'd be on a IV for 6 weeks, but then you're going to get off, and so you're not a patient anymore. And I was still in the lending side of doing more retail stores and mom and pop drugstores, and that was like, those patients will be with. You have customers.
Residual.
They stay with you. So that was a big if we start. So we started focusing on, we want to get off Nissan Parkway if we can. We'd love to be in Madison. We should look for some real estate of where to put a building where we can relocate. And then we signed like a 5-year.
Yeah, our lease was expiring in
Lease.
2018, and which would have been 5 years. And
So we were like, let's try to find the next spot. Let's not renew this out here. Let's try to build something. And then when we build something, let's make a retail store, pharmacy. And that's going to give us a diversification piece to it. It'll have more the residual piece of
we can keep it
customer-
all kind of under one roof,
Right.
which we can manage a little bit easier.
So we started working on that in like 2017. Took like 2 years to build our building and get it all designed and come up with Brick City Drugs and how to name it and all that sort of stuff. But April of 19, we started Brick City Drugs.
So, and that's when, so I was at that time, I was at C-Spire and then went to Miller Transporters and was actually working under my dad. He was the CFO, I was the director of accounting, and I was kind of going to be like the successor to him. Well, Miller Transporters sold to private equity, and so accountants don't usually have, staying power when that happens. And so it just so happened that, I mean, Wade was, entrenched with all of the Vital Care stuff, and we were getting ready to start Brick City Drugs, a retail pharmacy, and we had this building that we were being built, and he didn't have the time to do both. And so it was
There's
really
a lot going on at that point.
Yeah, so the timing was
Y'all own the building?
yeah, we do. Yeah.
Bought that lot
Yeah.
in 17.
16 or
16, yeah.
So yeah, I started working for the pharmacy full time, which was my dream. That's all I ever wanted to do, was go work for the full time for the business that we had. And so I started working in
For Brick City Drugs?
actually, I mean, I was working for really Vital Care because
Right.
that was the only one that had any money. But my job was to help get Brick City Drugs off the ground. Like, I mean, we had to work through finding a pharmacist. We had to do all these contracting. We had, figure out who our wholesaler was going to be. I mean, Drew was a good resource because he did pharmacy loans all the time and he could put us in contact with different stuff. But, there's also building needs, that's happening and figuring all that sort of stuff
Yeah,
out.
just contractors.
Oh, yeah. That's that's a job. in
Yeah,
and
that's
of
right.
That's
itself.
right. It just
So
got
the
to be
timing
where
was perfect for me to come work full time.
Almost waving the white flag up. I got to have some help. I
Right.
can do the Vital Care stuff, but there's a lot of ancillary stuff going on too. So John came on and was a kind of a Swiss Army knife of all things, general management type stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
so
But that was, Brick City was kind of propped up as to kind of be a bolt on with Vital Care for just to kind of all encompass, be a landing pad where you could kind of have control over everything, really, it sounds like. I mean, they all kind of juke and jive together.
That's right.
Sounds
There's
like.
a lot of synergies there, and it's the diversification piece was nice, but also, and then we started the business in April of 19. It's kind of slow going, wasn't great. COVID happened, and
Yeah, I got to know that.
it really
how that affected things.
COVID was a good thing.
It was
It
a
worked.
really
it
good
went,
thing
it
for
went
us.
different for both. It was really good for Vital Care, and it really slowed things down because people were trying to be as healthy as they've ever been. No germs were trying to get spread at all, which is not great for a retail pharmacy.
But we were a beneficiary of when the vaccine came out.
that is true.
Yeah, we were not.
And
We weren't
Kroger
necessarily
fell
doing
apart, and Walgreens and CVS sort of fell apart, and people couldn't get
Yeah.
the medicine in a.
Yeah,
that.
we
Yeah,
had to
there
make
was
it.
all this government paperwork that you had to do when you were giving COVID vaccines, and it was slowing down the processes.
Of people just getting their
at
regular
traditional
that's right.
pharmacies that were out there, and so people were like, man, I'm just trying to go get my lisinopril filled at Kroger, and it's taking me 45 minutes.
See, that's where, that's where I got in with Brick City Drugs was, it was spreading like wildfire how fast you could get your, and time is the biggest commodity we've had. I've talked about that. I feel like on every podcast, time is the biggest commodity we have. And it's like, if you can have a business model like y'all have got where it expedites getting it to the consumer, the consumer is going to pay more. They'll do whatever to get their time back.
Yeah.
And I think, leveraging off of a terrible thing like COVID and taking advantage of because in my experience, you go to Walgreens, you go wherever. You're just a number and they don't care.
They'll get to you when they get to you.
Yeah.
And we did the free delivery. That was helpful too. I'm not sure it made the most business sense, but it was, you talk about
Maybe it did though.
Maybe it did long term.
But you think about, COVID and the idea of everybody was scared to go into these large health system centers. And so the alternative was, hey, I could stay safe and just do my infusions, do my specialty infusions, my acute care infusions. I can just do these at home. I could sort of remove myself from the mass population where, germs are, potentially being spread. And it gives me an alternate site where I could come and go. And so it kind of opened the idea of, hey, there's more options out there than just going to a health system infusion center to be administered some drug that I've got to have every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks. And so it's like, this whole home thing, it actually makes a ton of sense.
Was there a lot of competition in the space?
There's competition that's out there.
Is it independent or is it franchise?
It's kind of a combination of both. For the most part, they're big national companies.
Kind of corporate.
Give me an example of one, because I have no idea.
Like, CVS Caremark has a large specialty group that's out there. It used to be called Quorum. It's kind of changed hands. There's been lots of turnover with it and transitions. But yeah, there's competition that's out there. One of the big things that we realized early on and we kind of leaned into is this is an advantage for us is in healthcare, especially in sterile compounding, there's a ton of regulation in it. Barriers to entry I think some people look at barriers to entry and they look at them and they go, man, it's hard for me to get into. If you kind of change your approach with it and say, it's not necessarily hard for me to get into, it's going to be hard for everybody else to get into. It kind of insulates me.
Absolutely.
As opposed to saying I can't get in. Because if I'm committed and I press into it and say, I'm doing this regardless, no matter what's barrier to entry?
Once you're in.
Well, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up because, I try to kind of relate where I can with real estate, with everything, and it's the polar opposite. Real estate, the barrier for entry is so low. Everybody and their brother gets a real estate license because the way things have turned on social media over the last 5 years, it's like it just looks like it's super easy, and every deal you sign turns into a commission check, which does not happen, by the way. But everybody wants to get in, and it's not that hard. Like, you can be half committed and pass the real estate exam. So to your point, I think that's great because it's like, all right, this is a big wall to climb to get over it, to get into this specialty pharmacy sector. But once I get in, I can look back and be like, man, glad I don't want to climb that wall again, but I did it. And the next guy is probably going to give up.
Yeah.
Trying.
We have this conversation with our operators in, the different states all the time. They talk, kind of complain and, like, oh man, you got to do this, you got to do this. It's like, be grateful for that because we're committed to it. That's
a great way to look at it.
But others will not be. It's going to take them a long time to, get up to speed of what they need to do. And, we've already done it. We've kind of written the playbook for it. And so it's just kind of rinse and repeat for us at this point. So, it's just, what's your perspective on that? So,
that's a good way.
We jumped into it and it's made sense for us.
What states are you
in? Mississippi, Arkansas, North Carolina, Texas, and TBD.
TBD.
Working on one out west.
Looking at another wall.
Yeah.
So when we moved into the new building, before everything had to be done in the home because no one was coming to our site. And so, but when we built the new building, we built these like infusion suites where you
like little drive-through.
Well, no, essentially where I guess there's
just hang your arm out there.
That's right. Yeah.
Stick me.
Yeah. Well, there's these, we had one private and two semi-private rooms where you come in, sit in a nice chair, had TVs in there, and you can get infused on site, which was just kind of just an extension of kind of our pharmacy right off the side of it. And so that kind of changed it a decent amount. So we had that when we built it in 2019. And then we had a space that was like 2,400 square feet that we were going to maybe try to put a tenant in, just maybe somebody that would help either of the pharmacies or something like that. And thankfully, we didn't find anybody quickly with that because pretty quick we realized we need the space. And so
something about building that building and or COVID, it took off. Like, I felt like the business really, you can go look at just growth year over year. And some of it was adding reps and some of it was just figuring out, and some of it was getting into other types of like therapies, different types of drugs, but expanding what you do and what you offer. But it really took off.
Yeah, we opened up in that 2,400 square feet. We ended up opening up an infusion center called Fountains Infusion Center that just is like a sister and works hand in hand with the infusion pharmacy where, we have a NP that runs that. And from a billing perspective, it really opens up a lot of opportunities for us to be able to accept more things that we couldn't do before. Because there's some restrictions sometimes. Sometimes things have to be done in an infusion center.
So what are you doing on the infusion that's separate from vital care so the vital care is like a prescription deal, like you said, mentioned an infection, 4 to 6 weeks. Is the infusion more like the vitamins and all that stuff you hear about?
No, we don't. We stay far away from that. It's, there's not a lot of regulation on it right now. You don't really know the way it's going to sort of turn. So everything that we do is therapeutic. We treat
Like doctor prescribes.
Yeah, mostly everything that we do is on the specialty side is chronic disease states. So we work a lot with neurology offices, gastrointestinal offices, rheumatology, dermatology, immunology. They're all therapeutic based. It's not. We don't have like a hydration spa. You come in and you've had a little too much fun one night. You need some fluids to kind of get you going. Now we don't do any of that. So there's a lot of models out there that do exist with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the infusion center it's a spot for people to land where there's certain drugs that have to be infused with that need a little bit more oversight clinically with nurses and NPs, mid-level practitioners. And there's certain restrictions on certain drugs from a payer standpoint from insurance companies where they want things infused in more of a clinical environment as opposed to just doing it in the home. So again, it makes us a little more dynamic in what we can do and the types of services we can offer and the drugs that we can administer and oversee to be able to have an infusion center. But again, that was a change because initially when we started 2013, we didn't have that. But it's our model going forward with, here and, in all the other states as well.
So you could vertically integrate within that industry different. I mean, y'all could end up getting into lending. I mean, I like where this is going.
Yeah. So 2022, there was a big push from the franchise. I guess it's 21, 22.
No, it's more closer to about 2020, 2020. Yeah, because by 2020, we had become the number one franchise in the network.
How many total?
About 70 franchises.
70 or 80 at the time. And mainly Vital Care.
Number one being in just revenue based?
Yeah. And mainly it was sort of situated in the Southeast. The corporate office was in Meridian, Mississippi. It was a family business.
Really?
Started
in Meridian.
Started in Meridian, Mississippi. And then again, it shifted so much. The corporate office eventually was bought out by private equity. I didn't want to get into, I mean, some things you want to talk about and not. I didn't want to ask that. But I was curious. I mean, there's got to be plays with PE and different parts of that, or if you could buy out other franchises within the thing. It's so different, from when we started in 2013 to where it is now. Just
it's night and day.
The landscape of it and just the the aspiration.
So
that you're trying
somebody
for.
says there's a group of us that are still doing it, but the slogan is we were a Vital Care before it was cool to be a Vital Care, because it's changed so much. Back in 2013, it was kind of a weird looking logo, like kind of mom and pop little deal. But now it's like private equity comes in, logo change, resources change, all your interface. I mean, software, IT, all that sort of stuff's changed.
There's about 170 locations nationwide. At this point.
Once they PE came in.
So we had gotten to number one, and then the corporate folks started pushing multi-site owners, and so. Which makes sense because you're like, hey, y'all have done it well. We would, instead of having to continue to bring new people in, it'd be great if you would just duplicate.
The playbook.
Yeah, you understand how to do it. Way more.
It wasn't really on our radar there. We were probably like, man, we've never thought, we knew where we came from and how, where we started. And we're like, this is bigger than we've ever thought it would ever be. So you're like, why you need a second or third? But
I remember
just kind of it was just a big decision making of.
I remember talking to Wade and Drew, and I was like, all right. We figured this out. We understand how to do it. We can either just keep riding out this one we have, which is great, and keep doing that, or we can take this, what we figured out, and see if we can go duplicate it somewhere else. And so I guess we sat around and we're like, okay, I guess we'll try to duplicate it somewhere else. And then we're like, well, if you're going to do one, it might be just as easy to try to do two at the same time so we're like, maybe that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, we hired Wade's dad to like be our multi-site coordinator because we were like, the markets we were looking at ultimately was Little Rock, Arkansas, and then Asheville, North Carolina is where our other one is. And so we're like, but this is a lot of paperwork and all the barriers to entry stuff that Wade mentioned. Somebody's got to, I was still working for the bank. I'd still,
And it takes a long time to get them off the ground.
So
yeah,
it takes a
long time. I mean, at least a year.
Just being out of state. So, again, back to real estate, like I just made an offer on a piece of land out of state, and it not knowing those markets, which I imagine would be the same in y'all's case, back to barrier to entry, there's a spooky level or a spooky factor there. And it's like you could easily talk yourself out of, man, it's just going to be too many hoops to jump through. It's going to be too many. Like, I'm doing this right now. And it's like I got all the reasons in the world lined up against me to like, hey, you need to stay on your home turf in Mississippi where you know everything.
Yeah.
But there's also that part, and that's where that dog comes in, is just like the challenge.
Yeah.
Like to your point, I'm going to grab this bear and figure it out. Like you either got that or you don't. Like you can't just wake up and be like, you know what? I got to get motivated to go out of my comfort zone.
We were in a good spot at this point where we had started, the three of us, me especially, had started offloading a lot of daily operational tasks on other people.
Yes.
And really investing in them and trusting them and saying, hey, y'all know what to do with this. You've sat here, you've learned, you've listened, you've been exposed to a lot of stuff. Like you can go and run the operation, here in Mississippi. And so being able to pull back from that and not feeling like I've got to micromanage this and I've got just to stay on top of it, and everything that happens inside this building I have to know about. And that's hard to do. Lots of conversations between the three of us, especially, kind of coaching me and consulting with me to say, hey, you can't keep doing that.
To delegate.
Like if you don't
biggest struggle.
delegate, like we're just putting a limitation on where we can go.
Let go and grow.
We always laugh because now we have these operators in the different locations, which we put a lot of responsibility on them because they run the show essentially. And Wade will talk to them about how to let go of stuff and how to delegate stuff. I'm like, I'm glad you become the teacher because man, you were hard early on to do that. Yeah.
That is the toughest part, but that's probably, I'm interested to know, like that's gotta be the springboard for growth.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, without a doubt. If you can't delegate, if you can't pull back, you're just going to put limits on you and say, this is my.
And when you do hand that torch off to the operator of that site or whatever, is it like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but you're basically putting all your faith and belief in them. So how do you prop them up and be like, hey, like, this is
profit sharing is a big part of it. I mean, as far as like, they got to be compensated for what the amount of hours they're putting in, the amount of responsibility that they have, the team that they're building. You got to give them buy-in.
So they don't have equity, so we're not sharing equity with them, but
it's incentive based on profit share.
That's right.
And you kind of let them make their own decisions. I mean, obviously they lean on Wade and others a lot of how they make decisions, and we want them to follow sort of our plan and process. But
even if you get a piece of that back, you're getting 100% or most 100% of your time back to the commodity of time.
And vetting those operators was really important. That's your most important hire whenever you go to another site. And we would always start the interview by saying, we're going to try to talk you out of this before we try to talk you into it. Because if we can tell you all, because we know the road that's ahead of, and if we give false advertising about, hey, it's going to be easy, it's going to be, no hard work and all this sort of stuff is just a lie. And so we try to tell them all the difficult things that they're going to face.
I like that.
And say, look, if you want to still do it after that, that's great. But then that they have buy-in, and they know that what's in front of them, and it's going to be really hard for a while. And then we know it'll, because we've been through the whole, timeline. Right. So we know how tough it is early, and then we know it gets better,
I really like that. That's very instrumental. I mean, y'all have been through the whole process. Similar to that, when I'm interviewing agents, I do the same. I guarantee you other brokers don't do this. I tell them, I encourage you to go interview with other brokers. Like, if the shoe fits, it's got to work for both of us. Mm-hmm. But I love that, to just be transparent, lay it out there. It's not rose-colored glasses where it's just, hey, I could talk you into coming and being a real estate agent here, or I could talk you into operating this thing and promise the moon. But when you start pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, that's I like that.
Yeah, you got to be super transparent. I mean, show them what their potential is, but also tell them it's going to be a lot of hours.
It's what you're not going to like.
That's right. Here's some things on the corporate side that you have to do that it's not fun, but it's part of the deal. So both of those, it took a long time to get them going, but they opened in 2022.
Little Rock was like the end of 2022, and Asheville opened in the beginning of 2023. So, we had 2 locations, and both of them just took off and did great. And that was the other thing. So we had been so fiscally conservative and kept so much money in the business and not try to just take as much of it as we possibly could. We had great nest eggs to start, and this is where we were different than a lot of other people that try to start a Vital Care. We can say, go do as much as you want to do as fast as you want to do it, because we have the capital to be able to do that. I mean, you go get a loan, you're limited on how quickly you can grow, or if you're trying to do it the way we did initially, you just don't have that much to do it anyway. But these guys had the keys to drive the Ferrari and go as fast as they wanted to, and that was a game changer for them, because they never had to worry about, I'm getting into really expensive, therapies and drugs. Like, do I have to watch what we're doing? I mean, the only issue we had was bump up against our credit limit and trying to get that, expanded and extended, because we had the capital because we kept it in the business.
But that's a byproduct of delayed gratification. I mean,
that's
just
right.
not going. I mean, I tell people all the time, I sold land on a 4-wheeler for 10 years, like before I ever bought a side-by-side. And it's just, if you do those little things,
hold on tight, buddy.
Yeah.
Do I just grab you here? I'm comfortable if you're comfortable with this deal. I like that.
We're looking at the land. Keep your eyes on the land. But that's what it takes, though. And like, in the moment, you're successful, you're doing these things, but it's like, you're not flashing it. You're just putting it back in the business. And that's another level of barrier for entry, because the next guy's more than likely going to treat themselves, they feel like they deserve this or that. And,
and we can always encourage these operators, because we had run this race. We knew what that runway looked like of when it was going to turn, and you could see their eyeballs pop open. You'd send out monthly financials to them, and, their first couple of months, they're bleeding money. And you're like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I know when this thing will turn, because you could see just the momentum that they were building.
Right.
So.
That's awesome.
So we had those 2. So now we were, multi-site owners, and then we were starting to talk about our 4th and where we were going to go. And we had an idea of where we wanted to go, but corporate had another group that was maybe trying to be in that same area. And they said, hey, what about Houston, Texas? We're like, yeah, it's ginormous. What do you mean? What about Houston, Texas? And they're like, there's only a handful of groups that we think could maybe do that, and y'all are one of them. So we're like, I don't know, let us think about it. So we started thinking about that, and that's when we were like, all right, if we do Houston, Drew was still working for the bank at that point. We're like, you got to come work full time, because we got too much going on, and we need more hands on deck and to do that.
Yeah. So I've only been, 2 years, I was still at the bank. So I've been, it hadn't been that long, really, which is hard to believe. But once Houston became a thing and was trying to get it going and finding real estate, it was like, all right, it's time for all.
Yeah, because just to show you how big Houston is, like the Jackson market that we have, the Little Rock market, the Asheville market, that's one market. So we buy territory for one. Houston's 9 markets. And so our plan is to control all of Houston and have all of that. So it's like, instead of just doing a bunch of different ones all over, we're like, let's just go really, dig in deep in Houston and just try to make that, the biggest one in the network, because it should be, because it's that big.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Golly. So, we're about out of time. So I do want y'all to, let's give us some insight, like our listeners, as far as, I think a good thing would just be the partnership side. And again, we're going to do a whole nother little short on partnerships, but what advice would you give, a young 20-year-old or something that's wanting to, or considering, they got a passion, they want to explore it. They've got hurdles in place, be it they don't have access to capital or whatever, considering, let's say it's a partnership, say it's two people that want to start a business and they are limited on funds. What are some main things that you would advise them to be aware of or be cognizant, like potential potholes, because just partnerships being a slippery slope? And then kind of, if you're looking at the wall, what's some of the main things that you would advise somebody of, like, hey, just be aware of this and keep a pulse on this?
Yeah, partnerships are tricky. I saw it in my 12 years at the bank. I mean, we did a lot of, it was always great. Anytime you did a partnership loan, you felt like, all right, this is great. I'm going to get to do this loan now. And when they get mad at each other and want to break up, we'll get to do that loan in 2 or 3 years. So that was kind of the thing. It's like two and one. But I've just seen a lot of them not work. I mean, ours has been, I mean, just thank the Lord. It's how we've had very few, none issues. It's been a great relationship. We were all in a similar stage of life. We all have similar values, grew up similar ways, similar interests, all that kind of. I think that's important. But I just think communication. If I was to give advice, you got to sort of, as many things as you can think about on the front end, talking those out. That would be really beneficial as you sort of move forward. Just getting on the same page, and then continuing to communicate.
Communication is key.
Absolutely. So there's. If we were going to do a board, it would have a lot of things on there, but communication's a big piece of it.
Yeah, the faith's the biggest thing for us. Is like we're all equally yoked in that, and that's the most important thing for us, and that guides us in everything we do. So morally, we're all kind of working towards the same goal and the same path, type of thing. So that's really big, and I think it's real important. We're all very similar, people. Like, you could look variations of like how we are fiscally with it to a certain extent, but we were pretty fiscally conservative. Wade and Drew went to college together, and even Drew would probably say, compared to others, maybe I'm kind of tight, but Wade was even like the tightest.
Golly, I remember
most tight.
Drew was paying for his rent at wherever he was staying. I'm like, I can't believe you're paying that much in rent. So he's come a long way.
I lived in the Highlands. It wasn't like I was at the penthouse. But
because that will dictate how you want to run your business. Because
Absolutely.
think if you have a guy who's living, a minimalist, and they're trying to partner with someone who has every toy possible, they're going to have an issue at some point. Like, they're just operate differently. I feel like all of us, we were very conservative in that regard. We had the same mindset, because money is going to be what drives a lot of that stuff. And some people would want to pull money out as fast as they possibly could to put in the pot. I need to benefit from this. I need to benefit from this.
Yeah, I need to go.
When you have a guy that works for a year and doesn't get paid, and then another 6 months at half salary, that shows you where he is with that. And I got a wife who's working and not getting paid. And Morgan's doing the accounting and she's not getting paid. And we're all putting our own money in.
Yeah, we put every paycheck we got back in the business. But it just didn't. I don't. If you lose, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah. And we're doing all this and also taking trips together. Like, and people would be like, I can't believe y'all are partners. And you even got brothers that are there. And then y'all are doing trips together too. It makes no sense. And so I guess we have a little bit, some humility with this, and we try not to be selfish with what we do, and always look out for the other person, and make sure we're being as fair as possible with everything that we do, and that's really eliminated a lot of issues. We've really had no major bumps along the way.
Yeah, we got into the partnership because we wanted to, not because we had to. Like, that's there's certain people where they just, you know, they
Yeah.
can't pull it all together. So that's a big thing. I mean, I know everybody doesn't have that.
Yeah, no, I think y'all have a very, very unique. It's almost abnormal that what y'all have.
I do agree.
In a good way. I mean, that's to have those core values and them all be aligned, and just a lot of parallels are what kept Vital Care from going in the ditch.
Yeah,
is my opinion.
It's a professional marriage. You know, you
Exactly.
You
That's well
look
put.
at what makes your marriage work, and you go, it's not the same thing, obviously, but you have to kind of pull back and go, all right, what are some of the qualities in the marriage that works that I can then translate over this professionally, you know, and what we're doing from a career standpoint. And like you have to sort of tap into the idea that you need to be influential, but you also need to be open to be influenced. Like you have to kind of see both sides of it and realize, like, sometimes I'm going to have to speak into Drew, and sometimes Drew's going to have to speak into me.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
Like, he's going to see me at my absolute worst. You know, when we show up at the office every day, you know, every day is not just, you know, butterflies, rainbows, sunshine. Like, it's just not it. You know, every day you go home, it's not your best day. And that's all right. Like, you know, kind of understanding, like, there's some depravity that exists within all of us, but that's not the standard of me. You can see me, and Drew can see me, and John can see me, and understand, like, you know, I'm going to meet you at the bottom of your depravity, but I'm going to have a lot of fun walking and coming up with you as you come up through it. So, you know, there's, again, just so many sort of threads that exist with, you know, think about a marriage and the relationship that happens with it. And this is the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, we spend 8 hours to
and I think one of the biggest common denominators you hit on is the faith. I mean, we all go to Broadmoor, and I think being plugged in and just, like you're saying, just taking, I mean, we've all been blessed, and being able to, when you start turning and giving back and putting in, and things just work. They work out, you know, when you take your focus off of yourself and put it in other people, like y'all are talking about. I mean,
and we have the mindset that we don't do this for the money. Like, we're not trying to figure out how much money we can make. And thankfully we've been blessed to have money that we can now use to try to, you know, further the kingdom in different ways. And so we kind of are always looking for opportunities to, how can we not only just, you know, bless and treat our employees well, but what are other things that we can be plugged into and do. And so we kind of just see this as a conduit God's given us to be like, all right, how can you know, bless and use this? And it's like, as long as he keeps, you know, giving it to us or providing it for us, we want to keep pushing it out and doing what we can to help other people and that sort of thing. And we've always felt like we try to each year do more and more than we've done before, and that's been very rewarding too. So
Yeah, being on the same plane with sort of your level of generosity is a lot of fun. We were just sitting yesterday at the office. We do this every year. You get to November and you start looking at raises and bonuses for employees, and I mean, it's the most rewarding day of the year. No question. I mean, it's kind of tedious at times, but I mean, you're just sitting there and you're kind of going through a spreadsheet and looking at employees, and it's just it's kind of the spirit that sort of exists with it and everything.
To be able to call them and say, hey, look, you go. We're going to bump you.
But I mean, we're so aligned in all of that. You know, we're sitting there and you talk about this employee A, B, C, whatever. I mean, you know, you just kind of shoot from the hip a little bit. Whenever you look at everybody.
You're not holding on to it tightly, saying I don't want to let go of it. You're going in pretty open arm. You're like, you know, they're a huge contributor to why we are what we are and the success that we have. And so let's make sure we're doing that. If we've been blessed and we've had, you know, the funds to do it, let's open it up and treat them well.
Man, that's good stuff. Well, guys, I really appreciate y'all coming on. Y'all are definitely leaders in that space, and y'all are setting a really good example on how to run a business, how to work together. I've thoroughly enjoyed our friendships. We've done some real estate together, and I am looking forward for the future with y'all. So
same.
It was fun.
Thanks for having us, Paul. Thanks for having us, man.